making spaghetti today. We're gonna start with the sauce. For the sauce, you'll need garlic, onion, pepper, chili paste, olive oil or your favorite kind of oil. This is an olive oil sunflower seed oil mixture. I like it a lot. Decided to try it. It's at Aldi. Very yummy. Your favorite kind of salt and a little bit of vinegar. Today I'm using apple cider vinegar to give it a little bit of that sour punch. In every meal you want fatty, salty, sweet, and sour. And this is gonna be our sour. So to start, we're gonna make this really easy. We're using a blender. Throw your garlic in the blender. Throw your onions in the blender. I'm using white onion today. I like white onion because it's sweet and has like an oniony kick. Yellow onions I think can be just too sweet sometimes and I want to taste my onion. And white onion allows that. You always want to season. So that's salt and pepper. This is the apple cider vinegar right in the blender. That's just a tablespoon, it's not much. A couple glugs of your olive oil and sunflower seed oil, I guess. And this stuff I just put in a little bit for a spicy kick. It's good chili paste. Put the top on. Put your pan and just pulse it 2 seconds. And this allows you to not tear up when you're cutting up the onion. It also makes your hands garlic oil free. To get the garlic out of the skins, I actually just put them in a pot of boiling water off the stove for about a minute and then they peel right off. Now that you kind of have this chopped onion mixture, just like you chopped an onion and some garlic and threw some spices in there. Right over here on the stove, we have our big pot of not boiling yet water, but it is well seasoned with salt, and a smaller pot for our sauce that has a glug and a half of olive oil in it. And the oil looks just about ready that we can put our mixture in that we just chopped up in our blender. And as long as you hear that sizzle, it's ready to go. So we drop the onion mixture in. You want to sweat this down for a decent amount now. Or else you'll have a super oniony sauce and your wife will hate it. Or your significant other, or the person that you're making it for, unless they really, really like onion. Also, we're using some petite diced tomatoes. That's another acid, but the onions kind of take the acid away from the tomatoes. Root vegetables tend to do that. We're also using turmeric, which is also another root, and that will take the acid away from tomatoes as well. If you want to come over here, we can see the spices that we're using today. In this first bowl, we have a tablespoon of oregano, a tablespoon and a half of basil, a sprinkle of red chili, a sprinkle of dill, half a teaspoon of thyme, and a teaspoon and a half of parsley, Parmesan cheese, which isn't a spice, but kind of looks like it, and then our turmeric. And the reason we're using turmeric is it helps with milk production. I, obviously, am not breastfeeding, but I do have an 8-week-old baby, which my wife is breastfeeding, and there's a link down in the description that if you follow, you can find a whole bunch of tips on how to cook for people that are breastfeeding to help increase milk production and foods to stay away from breastfeeding. And on that list is parsley. So what I've done with this, you still need a little bit of parsley in your sauce, but I've compensated it with basil, which helps with milk production a lot. So now that your onion mixture is simmering a little bit, you're getting some bubbles all over the place, which is what you want to see. Now you can drop in this spice mixture. I have the turmeric separated out because you shouldn't add it at the same time because that burns easier. So it gets added later in the process when the heat is turned down. So you can add this one, and that's a lot of spices, but we're cooking a whole box of spaghetti today. A general rule that I have for portions with spaghetti and at least the tomatoes is that 1 can of diced tomatoes will get you enough sauce for about a half a box of spaghetti, and 2 cans of diced tomatoes will give you enough for a full box of spaghetti. And we're using 1 full white onion and about 9 cloves of garlic. good caramel on the onions, the spices are opening up. Always be seasoning the food. Salt really opens up the spices. You can have all the spices in the world in there and it's just going to taste like a spicy mess if you don't put salt. Alright, it's time to add the tomatoes. Now that we got a nice caramel on our onions, they're looking a little bit more brown than pink. That green kind of soaked up all the red that was in there from the chili paste. Now we're going to add a lot more red. These are petite diced tomatoes. I buy no salt added because I add all my own salt. I don't want anyone else to mess with my seasoning. I season my own stuff. So I washed both these lids. You have to wash them good because in the factory, stuff can pee on them. So the tomatoes just go right in. Now we're still at that medium-high heat, and once we start seeing some bigger bubbles and the boiling action happen, then we can turn it down. This is going to be a fairly chunky sauce because I'm just using the diced tomatoes. I'm not using any tomato sauce. But a lot of the salt that we put in there will pull out some of the moisture in the vegetables. And we will put some starchy water in at the end from the noodles. And that will really just bind everything together, which is nice. Alright, now we cover that and wait for it to get bigger bubbles. Tomatoes heat up very quickly, or at least they think they're heat up quickly because they start boiling really fast. So once you see some bigger bubbles, you'll turn your heat down to medium, medium-low, and add your turmeric. Alright, our big pot of water, salty water, is boiling. You got the big bubbles, the little bubbles are gone, and big bubbles are rising from the center. Take your spaghetti and carefully dump it in. Super easy recipe, just using the whole box today. And then you have leftovers. And pretty quickly here, these will start sliding into the pot. Sometimes you need a little help from Mr. Spoon. Just follow the box directions on this. If you want them a little bit crunchier, then you can go a minute under and check them then. We'll do that today. This says 8 to 12 minutes. Let's set a timer for 7. Alright, it is time to add the turmeric. We're getting some bubbles in our tomatoes. It's still a sharp tomato scent, but when we add the turmeric, oh, well, dumped half the turmeric out. We'll just back up and replace it. I'm a klutz, and that happens. Just make sure you clean up your mess, or else your wife will get mad, or your partner, or whatever. Now we're turning our heat down to a medium, medium-low for when the turmeric's in there so it doesn't burn. And then we just let that simmer, stirring occasionally. Also, we need to add salt and pepper because we're seasoning throughout. Now would be a very good time to do a little taste test of the sauce just to make sure your spices are balanced. This I just use a spoon to do a taste test and then I get rid of the spoon or wash it so you're sanitary. Oh, a little spicy from that chili paste. Oh, the turmeric just brings everything together. Gorgeous. Ooh. Capture sauce, but also don't make a big mess, or at least a bigger one than you've already made. Especially if you're following the directions precisely, which call for you to spill a butt ton of turmeric on your stove. Mistakes happen in cooking. Just keep moving forward, it's gonna be yummy. Alright, our timer went off. Time to taste test a noodle. A little bite. I'm gonna give it 35 more seconds just to soften up a tad. just a tad. The sauce has been simmering for a while. It smells gorgeous. It's now time to add the half and half. It's about 1/3 cup. Just dump it right in there. That's gonna take some of the spiciness down. Excuse my timer. It's gonna take some of the spiciness down from the chili paste. It'll still be there, but it's not gonna be as sharp. So it'll be more of a taste than a feeling. Also, it'll give you a beautiful, rich, smooth orange red color. Now that your noodles are done, this is a vital key point to make your sauce perfect. You need to take just a coffee cup, dip it in your starchy water, and fill that coffee cup up safely, and dump that starchy water into your sauce. That starch is going to bind the tomato sauce and make it more sauce than a liquid paste. Ties the whole meal together. Now you take your noodles safely with oven mitts, bring it over to your calendar, which is forever away, because if you're like me, your kitchen is set up silly, but that's okay. And you dump it out. Shake out the noodles, get all that water out, and put it right back into the pot. Your noodles are done. They can just sit on the stove off without any heat, and they'll just be good for when your sauce is done. Sometimes I put some oil or butter into the noodles just to make sure they don't stick, and gives it a little bit more of that yummy taste. Fat is always yummy. Not always good for you, but always yummy. Now it's a waiting game for the sauce, and once you see it thicken up a little bit, you're gonna be ready to go. After I added the starch water, I moved it to the back burner so I could clean up the turmeric. And I turned the heat up a little bit so it could simmer a little bit. And now we've got a thicker, velvety sauce instead of tomato water and tomatoes. Okay. So all that is left now is to serve and to eat. So first, put down our noodles. Now, most people have a good spoon for lifting noodles out of a pot. We do not have one. I don't know why. So that's always just a fun struggle for me to do. Get a good portion of noodles, get your plate, and plop it down on there. Get all the noodles up top. Take your sauce, spread it out on the noodles. Don't touch the sauce to your finger or it'll burn you. Top it with your favorite Parmesan or Reggiano cheese. Today we're just using Kraft in the green bottle because I forgot to buy it at the store. I was gonna get nice blocks of cheese and grate it for you, but this works just fine. Super simple, easy recipe. That is spaghetti a la Dan. Take your fork, the acid from the tomatoes are gone. It's a beautiful sauce. Creamy, a little spicy. Oh, it just warms you to the soul. Thank you. Here's Nick, our videographer for today, trying the spaghetti for the first time. Just get, yep. Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. That might burn you a little bit, but you got a big mouth.
So good.
Yep.
Some of the glasses, you see it right there.
Yep.
Some of my arm, that means you're doing this.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's gonna burn your arm a little bit.
It's really good.
Thanks. I like it. It's a little bit
very hot.
Very hot.
Very hot.
Yep. Gotta blow on it. This isn't the cleanest spaghetti in the world, but that's what spaghetti is. Yeah.
You just dumped it out.